Hey everyone, this is your boy Zack. This is my very first video on my new channel, Show Me the Stocks. I am planning on doing a video, at least a couple of them per week, highlighting a few stocks that I think are interesting to take a look at. Some of them might be stocks that I think are going to go down. Some of them might be stocks that I think are going to rise. And I want to explain my philosophy and kind of what I look at when I'm looking at a particular stock for investment. So I am mainly a technical analyst of stocks. So I look at the price action of a particular security. And there are certain patterns that I look for that repeat consistently. Obviously, with the stock market or any type of market, nothing is predictable. There's things that cannot be predicted. There's a lot of variables that go into the movement of a stock. So nothing's 100%, obviously. That should go without saying. And what I try to do is look for opportunities for entry on the bull side for the appreciation of a stock going forward. And then maybe on a short-term side, bearish, if there's a stock that I think needs to come down a little bit, maybe it's too extended. There's certain factors that in my analysis will show why I think something is a little overpriced and could come down in price. So we're going to jump into a few of these things here. I use this website, Finviz. I use it all the time. So I'll give you a little, I'm not going to reveal exactly who I am. I am a 30-year veteran of the securities industry. So I have experience in selling investments, managing portfolios, all those type of things. So I do have a background in the securities industry. But I just want to do this for fun. This is not something for me to provide I make a very good living in what I do. This is just for fun to kind of help people, giving suggestions. Obviously, this is not financial advice. I'm giving you recommendations. I'm not giving recommendations. I'm giving opinions on what I'm looking at on the charts. And what you do with your own money, that's certainly all up to you. And I always advocate seeking professional help. Don't rely on what I am telling you for financial advice. That's the disclosure I'm going to put in probably every video. So expect to hear that from me often. So let's take a look here. First security I've identified that looked interesting is maybe known to some of you. It's most of the stocks I'm going to highlight are typically mid to large cap. Maybe once in a while there'll be a small cap. But one of the things I always look for is a company that has a market capitalization, which is basically a net worth statement for each security. I like that to be $1 billion or more typically. So I don't usually look at anything that has a market capitalization of under $1 billion. So here is a company, Generac Holdings. They are in the specialty industrial machinery category. I think their main product is they produce and manufacture generators. They've been around a long time. If you go down to the history of the company, looks like they were founded in 1959. They're headquartered in Wisconsin, and they make a lot of different things. A lot of it in the energy sector, especially regarding generators. So this is a well-established company. It's been around a long time. As you can see, this is the kind of pattern I look for. I want a stock that is, in general, trending in an upward direction. And what I'm simply also looking at is where there is support and where there is resistance. So support is basically this blue line here. So this Finviz draws the lines for you. You can see here there's several touch points. 1, 2, 3, 4 touch points on that blue line. So that's the trend line of support. So support was right at 420. 420 the other day, it just hit. It's starting to rise off of that support. And then you can clearly see resistances. Resistance is the purple line. Now, resistance is where the sellers tend to take over, meaning they tend to have the upper hand and are able to knock the stock back down. As you can see right here, what happened in July. Stock came up to this level of around 455 and it couldn't get above it. It went down, came back up, retested that line, and again fell. And you can see how it retraced a good portion of that move that it had from June. So there's the market for you right there. It's the struggle or the tug of war between buyers and sellers, and the trend lines that I look at clearly define where there's resistance, meaning where there is an ability for the sellers to take over. And then where support is the blue line, which is where typically buyers start to have the upper hand. Now, obviously, you can see here in August, you had a drop down to this 50-day moving average. That's also a level of short-term support, and it bounced off of that very quickly. Went through it here in August, about mid-August. And it didn't come down to the blue line, right? It just sort of hovered above it and went right back up. And then you can see in October here, end of September, beginning of October, you had a very dramatic move down here from that 460 level all the way down to about 400, and then bounced off that line that it was forming that goes all the way back to May, basically. So this is a very well-defined channel, and right now it's at the bottom of the channel. So I do expect the stock to bounce as it's doing today. It's up 3% today. So I do expect it to bounce and go back up. Probably going to go back up above 520 if I had to make a guess. 520, just above 520 is going to be that purple line of resistance. That's where it's likely where you'll see the sellers perhaps get the upper hand again and try to knock down the stock. There's things like news that can drive it up. There's all kinds of catalysts that can move stocks. Sometimes it's earnings. Sometimes it's a news announcement. They're acquiring another company. It could be all kinds of things. So I don't know what is going to drive this stock back up to that resistance line, other than it's just a well-defined trend and the company's probably doing pretty well. So there is value in looking at fundamentals. I don't ignore fundamentals at all. I look at debt levels. The debt level on this is not anything outrageous. Forward PE is a little high, 35 times earnings. So market's at around, maybe 19, 20 times earnings right now. So it's certainly more expensive than the market, but it has been outperforming for sure. Year to date, the stock's up 85%. I think the S&P is up a little over 25% during that period of time. So it's well outperformed the S&P this year alone. And it's just a nice looking formation. I like the stock. The fundamentals are pretty nice. Sales last quarter were up 34%. Earnings per share were up over 13. They just had earnings on November 2nd. And there wasn't much of there was a little pull down in the stock since then, right? It pulled back down to this level of support since the earnings came out, which is normal. Nothing too dramatic there. So the stock's acting as I would expect it to. It's starting to bounce off that level of support. So this is a stock that, this is the type of stock I would look at for going long a position. Generac Holdings. I like that stock chart quite a bit. All right, the next one is going to be a stock that I think could fall in the short term. Now, long term, I love Microsoft. I think Microsoft's a fantastic company. I've been in that position for many, many years. It's done extremely well. It's a very well-ran company, very capital efficient. There's a lot of fundamental reasons to own Microsoft, but there are times, obviously, when Microsoft gets a little extended. You can see here, this is kind of a nice uptrend channeling formation here. And you can see every time it gets near that resistance line, it starts to have problems and goes back down. You can see here in August, same thing, came up, didn't quite touch the line, but started to back down a little bit, popped back up a little bit, then went down again, and bottomed out at this trend line of support. So Microsoft's trend line of support right now is just under $300 a share, probably around $297. And right now it's currently at $343. So I do expect Microsoft over the next several months potentially to fall. It doesn't mean it will. Obviously, it could break through that resistance and continue higher, but the likelihood of the stock pulling back to levels of support or to moving averages of support seems highly likely at this point. So I'm expecting Microsoft to pull back here, probably initially to that 20-day moving average, which is right around 330. Could easily get down to this 320 level. Remember, human beings were fairly predictable. A lot of times a stock will bottom out near even numbers, as it did back here in late September, early October, right around that 280 level is where it kind of bottomed out. So humans are pretty predictable in that way. They in $5 or $10 increments is where a stock a lot of times will go down to. So the 50-day moving average right now is around 310, 311. It could easily go back down to that level, but definitely where I would expect buyers to regain control of Microsoft would be at this blue trend line at around 297, 298, just under $300 a share is exactly where I would expect a lot of buyers to enter the stock again. So there is a potential over the next few months that Microsoft will pull down to that $300 level. So keep your eye on that. You know, if you are a trader and you like to trade short term, you could take a look at shorting Microsoft. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend shorting it long term. This is definitely something of a short term trade. But another way to protect yourself is by using put contracts. You know, buying contracts maybe a month or two out, and setting a strike price or where you think the stock will go down to. So there's all kinds of strategies to make money in the short term, but this is a stock that I just expect over the next few months could weaken and easily come back down to that level of support. So don't be surprised if that happens, but that's one thing they could take a look at as an opportunity. Microsoft falling over the next few months to me seems somewhat likely. All right, the last stock we're going to end on is one that is just another stock that I think could potentially go up in the short term. We're going to highlight Tempur Sealy International. Should be an interesting stock. This is a little bit more volatile of a stock. As you can see, the beta on this is 1.76, so it's about saying the S&P is about 1.00, so it trades about 75% more volatile than the S&P, this particular stock on average. So this is definitely a stock that can move very quickly. You can see back here in July, it had a very, very quick move up off of this level of support. That support was probably around 37, and you can see it jumped really quick off of that. So this stock can make dramatic moves up and down, and I do expect the support to be, it's right on support right now today, and it is up a little bit. Now, if this support fails, which it very well could, if not enough buyers are convicted here and come in and enter the stock, this stock can easily fall back down to this $40 level or the 200-day moving average, which is just above it. 200 days probably at just under $41 a share. That is where you could see buyers enter the stock again. So if this support where it is right now does not hold, expect it to drop down to this $40 level. And then that's where I would expect buyers to potentially step into the stock. Overall, this has been a really good performing stock over the last year. The 1 year performance is up almost 75%. Year to date, it's up 63%. So of course, this stock has been far outperforming the S&P by a large margin. And it's not too expensive. So for those that are into fundamental valuation that want to buy a stock that's not overly expensive, Tempur Sealy International. By the way, if you don't know what they are, I think their claim to fame is making the memory foam mattress. I believe that's their product that most people associate them with. Their forward PE is 11.75, so that's way under the market right now. I think the S&P is around 20. And you can see the last quarter, which was just reported on October 28th. Earnings per share was 55% above the previous quarterly estimate, and the sales and revenue was up 20%. So those are really, really strong numbers. I do expect this stock to potentially bounce here. If it doesn't bounce here at this $44 level, and it goes through that, I would expect it to bounce off that $40 to $41 level. So, if you're looking at establishing a position, something like this, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll maybe establish a half a position here because I think, well, maybe the stock goes down to that $40 level, and then I will finish off the position at that $40 level. So that's one strategy that you could use. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just giving you opinions on a couple stocks here and what I think they could do based on the price action and where I think the buyers and sellers are lining up. But you notice here, this is a short-term resistance line here. So if the stock can get above 46, then I think it really goes on another big run. And if you trace this line of resistance, it's probably going to be up near 55.60, way up there in the chart. So there's potential for the stock to really have a good move here, especially if it breaks that $46 level, which is a short-term line of resistance. So those are three stocks that I wanted to highlight. Two of them I'm bullish on. One of them I'm short-term bearish. I'm definitely not short-term or long-term bearish on Microsoft. I think Microsoft's one of those companies that you just buy and hold and don't trade. But for those that like to trade, there's people out there that like action. They like to make short-term trading decisions. I do think Microsoft in the next few months could weaken down to those levels of support. The other stocks, Generac Holdings and Tempur Sealy International, I do expect them to go higher in the short term. But that's kind of what I had for you. This is my first video. I hope it's not too long. I would love to get some comments from people as to what they thought of it. Again, this is a new channel. Show me the stocks. I'm just starting out doing this. I've always been intrigued by the markets, and I kind of like watching people on YouTube as well. So I'm a fan of this type of entertainment, and that's really what it is. It's entertainment purposes only. I'm not rendering or giving any financial advice, so I'm always going to give that disclosure on all these videos. And I appreciate everybody watching. Please, if you can, subscribe to my channel and also leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of these particular stocks, what your opinion is, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everyone.